Hello and welcome. I'm Samantha Hartley, and this is the Profitable Joyful Consulting Podcast. This season, season 3, we're talking about consultants and consulting. And today I have a super special guest, my client and friend, Patty Lawrence. Patty Lawrence, CMA of TurboExecs, works with results-oriented business owners to reveal the story behind the numbers with financial tools that skyrocket productivity and remove barriers to growth and profitability. Her clients typically increase the bottom line by at least 15% and feel in control of their finances and results. In her free time, Patty enjoys playing competitive tennis. Patty, welcome.
Thanks so much. It's an honor to be here, Samantha.
So I love to ask my guests to just tell me a story of someone you've worked with. Like why did they come to you? What did you do for them? And what were things like once you were done?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I had a client that came to me a while back and was hemorrhaging cash. So Angela was in one industry in the manufacturing sector and was in an industry and made an acquisition in a different industry. So trying to integrate those two things was a bit problematic because what happened was she took on extra overhead. And then that individual that she acquired the business from came with the business, which is usually the case when there's an acquisition. You want to keep that person because they have that area of expertise. So you want to tap that and make sure that that business has some continuation and some growth opportunities. But what happened was that individual got lazy and there wasn't much accountability to the new owner and the new ownership of that business. And what happened is that person just turned into pure overhead. So there was no additional sales that came from it. There was, as a matter of fact, sales dropped as a result of it because that person got so lazy that they didn't even do maintenance type work, sales maintenance type work. So it was, the acquisition with the outlay of the money first. The second thing was the continued outlay of the salary for that individual was just such a drag on the business. So what happened over time was they started hemorrhaging cash because not only were those things happening on the cash side, but from just the attention standpoint and focus standpoint of the owner who had acquired the business, they were like, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. But now I'm not paying attention to my core business. So that distraction was twofold and it was double trouble. Right.
Yeah.
So the other business started suffering too. So it was just this huge drag on things. So what we did was we said, all right, how can we put together a plan to stop this? So we looked long and hard, and there are proven methods to help turn some things around. Some of them are, look at your costs. Look where's your cash going. Take a look at those, hard and fast look at those. And some of those are really difficult decisions, right? So I'm going to throw them all out there and have you make the choice, right? I'm going to have the owners make the choice because I can't do it all. I can't do it for them. They need to do it. So we talked through it. She picked out the ones that kind of, I don't want to say appealed to her, but that she thought she could do. And within 12 months, that sucker was turned around. So much so that they not only increased sales by 20% year over year, but they increased the bottom line by 38%. So what you would expect was a 20% increase in sales would be a 20% increase in the bottom line, right? No, there was additional cost savings and expense reductions that they kind of, belt tightening, kind of sucked up, and they did it. They did all the hard work, but you got to be willing to do that because it's not for the weak. Right. It's not for the weak, but they reap huge reward. So Angela had her best year ever, and she was able to kind of use that to keep building. Now, the moral of the story is when you do an acquisition like that, make sure that you can integrate it and that you're going to be adding to not only your sales, but your bottom line. She ended up shutting down that one, even with the investment that she did, that she put into it. it was not going to pay her back. It was not, it was just going to be a continued drag.
Yeah.
So, after 6 months, we decided the best route to take would be to shut it down and preserve the core of your business so that you could move forward. So that's an example of how, one example of how I work with my clients and how they come to me. And a lot of it is by referral.
So Patty, when you're looking at, so I know you work with businesses that are like in the $2 to $12 million range, but I feel like a lot of what I hear you talk about is relevant to small businesses. So my businesses are usually my clients, and I think a lot of the businesses who are listeners are more in the 150,000 to $2 million range. So kind of a little smaller than you work with. But I think in terms of like financial literacy and fluency, they tend to have a lot of the same problems. So can you go over like the main financial issues you see that we should be aware of as business owners?
Absolutely. And some of these translate across, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. It's those things that are universal for in the financial management arena. So, I'm looking at what kind of things should I know as
Yeah.
a business owner? And let's call it the basics, right?
Yeah.
I would say cash position is one. Cash is king or queen. So
Great.
cash position is really, really important. And so we're looking at not only the cash position that you have, the cash reserves on hand, and the cash runway that you have. So the runway is kind of, let's talk velocity. So velocity of spend. How much do you have on hand, how much you have on hand, and how far will it take you? How long will it last you? So do you have 1 month, 2 months, 3 months of expenses? Say you had no sales, think COVID, right? So a shutdown, if you had to fund those expenses, fixed expenses, variable expenses, whatever those commitments are, how long could your cash last? Okay. So that's one thing to just keep in mind. The second is, I call it profitability. Profitability is huge. It's not the same as cash, right? Cash is different than profit. But really your overall business, is your overall business profitable? And then let's take it down another level. Are your customers profitable? So is each customer as profitable as the other, right? Or do
Right.
you do some kind of deal of the day, right? Do you have that going on? That affects your profitability at the customer level. The other thing is profitability at either the product or service level, depending on if you sell a tangible product or if you're delivering services. So do you know what that profitability is? Because knowing that enables you to make other decisions on your next sale, how you approach that client. If you have a renewal coming up with that client, there's a lot of decisions that can impact in a positive way if you know that information. Another thing is budgets or benchmarks. Budgets are great, but if you don't have the time and energy to put a budget in place, versus last year is awesome. So look at your numbers versus last year, and that will help you understand and gauge how this year is going and where you might be able to make some tweaks in order to make yourself a little more profitable. I also I like to look at the being alone equals being at risk. Okay. Surround yourself with a great team of advisors like you are to me. Where do you have blind spots that other people can help you with and see in your business so that you can adjust? You can make those adjustments and go forward with confidence, and you can grow and prosper.
Awesome.
I'd say another one is building team. So when to hire, when to fire. And when I say building team, I'm not only limiting it to employees. So bringing on an employee, but bringing on, maybe it's a contractor, maybe it's a part-time person, maybe it's a full-time person, but knowing from a business standpoint, what do you need and when do you need it? And then looking at, do I have the cash flow to be able to make that happen? Another one is, and to say building team is when to hire and when to fire. That's in there, but you want to make sure that it's not exclusively applied to just employees. And just maybe the last thing is, honestly, don't be your lowest paid employee. There are ways to figure out what you can afford to pay yourself and what level of sales that will support that kind of not only a lifestyle, but what that expenditure, right? That cash outlay without I would say bankrupting. So without bankrupting your business, okay, from a cash standpoint. So you don't want to pull everything out of the business because then you don't have any fuel left for growth. But conversely, you don't want to give it all away to everybody else because you're making significant contributions to your business and you need to be paid for that. So don't shortchange yourself.
Right. So if I think a typical situation is among my clients is that there's one or two principals, sometimes three, but a couple of principals, and then they have usually they might have one or two employees in addition to themselves, and then contractors probably do the rest of the work. So when you say cash position, how much cash should we keep in the bank? As opposed to not just pulling absolutely everything out. If we know, like, I know what my budget is and I need to have X amount in there for my budget, how much extra on top of the budget should be in there?
Yeah, well, pre-COVID, COVID kind of changed everything, didn't it now? But pre-COVID, I would have been in the 3-ish months,
Uh-huh.
as a cushion, 3 months of your expenses, looking at that. And, that's for, funding, if you have rent payments, if you have your advertising, some of those things that are, let's call them fixed expenses that you don't have many adjusting levers for. But I will say that once COVID hit, and seeing the duration that this has been having, the impact this has been having, and for so long, my starting point is more in the 6 month range now.
Uh-huh.
So to have 6 months of cash on hand for you to be able to, once an event, happens, to be able to react to it and what I call adjust your levers. So be able to go out there and, kind of pull back on spending, pull back wherever you can, because wherever it makes sense, because some things you want to position yourself in terms of marketing. If you need to be seen during that period, I would say, and there's going to be a return on that investment, you darn well should be investing in that. But I'd say for other things that are variable expenses and that you can kind of pull back on, I'd say pull back on those and then see kind of how the landscape looks and how, things are progressing or not progressing, and then make other decisions as you go along. But keep a close eye
Mhm.
on those expenditures.
Yep. So it sounds like 3 to 6 months. 3 if we're feeling kind of safe, and then 6 if things aren't maybe going so well.
Correct.
How does a service business, I came out of the Coca-Cola company, so I understand what the cost of that was. There's like a product and you can take all of the individual ingredients and the pieces and then the machinery and then the people and the building and build that all in. I don't understand how to do that for a service business. How would you help us start? And like, should I go to my CPA for that, or should I hire someone like you for a special project to figure out our costs?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because a lot of people don't know exactly how we'll call it job costing, right?
Mhm.
So say you have a project or a job, we'll call it a job, right? You have a project with a client, you want to know exactly how much the cost to deliver those services is against how much your revenue or your sales level is, because that's your gross profit. And that's what pays for salaries and, right? And the rest of your overheads. So what I like to encourage people to do is to understand how much time is invested against a certain project and quantify that into through your QuickBooks or through your Zero accounts or whatever that is, and then do um, an analysis or run a report on a monthly basis just to see where that is. And you should be if you're in that service industry, you should, in the consulting business or an agency, you would want to be in that 50+% gross profit range.
Great.
So because that 50+%, that's got to pay for other expenditures. So if you're advertising, your marketing, your funnel, whatever funnels that you have to maintain, whatever those look like, they still have to be paid for. You have to be able to afford that. Not only that, but what are you paying for your people? So the cost to deliver the services is up in, I call it up in margin. It's in cost of goods. Okay. So that's the delivering the services, but the other expenditures, say for advertising, the things that are more holistic to your business, that are expenditures that are getting you seen. If you're writing a book, the cost to publish, things of that nature,
Mhm.
and the overhead expenses like rent and things like that. If you have that, those are, which by the way, COVID has caused everybody to kind of rethink that.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of rents that are kind of going away as
Yep.
far as cost of space, which is not a bad thing unless you're in commercial real
Right.
estate. That's a
Exactly.
tough place to be right about now.
Yep.
But did I answer your question?
Yes. So my takeaway from that, it was actually was the 50%. I think what a lot of consultants are looking for is like, just tell me that number. And I've heard like team costs should never exceed like 35%. So I don't know if that's the case, but I think just some really simple numbers like, you should make 50% of what you're charging is really helpful, after expenses are paid. So is 35% reasonable for team cost, or is 50% really more what you're looking for us to, as a business, to be able to clear?
So from a team cost standpoint, I would look in the range of anywhere from 20 to 30-ish%. So it depends if you have other expenses associated with that. So if there are hard expenses, so if you're paying for some kind of technology to help you deliver your services, you have to have some kind of infrastructure that's specific for that, that particular client. If you have those other costs, those have to be taken into account as well, and those would obviously be above and beyond that 20 to, I call it the 20 to 30%. So, and you're the pricing guru, so
Mhm.
you would know from a price standpoint, what is the market, bearing, and
Yes.
what's your value proposition, all of those wonderful things that you've taught me over the years as far as price
Yeah.
may allow you to take that 50% and be more like 60 or 70%, depending on that composition and depending on the value of the services that you're delivering.
Awesome. I think that's really helpful because if we can just like get some benchmarks around these numbers, then at least for me, it's helpful. I've had clients who came to me and when I said, what was your number from last year, they like don't know that number until their tax person gives it to them. So they're not really tracking that on a monthly basis, or like even more frequently. And what kind of waiting for their accountant to pull that out of QuickBooks. What numbers should we be looking at as business owners on, and how frequently, on what kind of a basis?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think as a business owner, you have to be very concerned about three in particular. First of all, it's your cash. Cash is king. Okay. So cash is at the top of the list. The second thing is when you're pulling down reports, you want to be sure, you want to look at what are your sales, right? What's your top line revenue looking like, especially in comparison to last year. Now we can do budgets because those are targets, and those are, growth mindset, hey, I want to put a big honking goal out there for myself for next year. And maybe you're thinking in your head, it's maybe 1 to 2 clients. People like me and my team, we take those kind of thoughts and turn them into numbers. So we'll take that number, oh, I need 1 to 2 clients per quarter.
Right.
or I need to get 10 per quarter.
Yep.
Well, what we'll do is we'll turn that into a number, we'll turn that into a dollar value, and we'll turn that into a budget or a forecast, something that you can have as a benchmark. So we talked about cash, we talked about revenue. So
Yep.
revenue is good, but even more important is gross profit. So gross profit we talked about is after the expenses to deliver those revenues, deliver on those revenues. What does it cost to deliver against those revenues?
And do we
Your
need,
service.
do we need to wait for our CPA to get that number, or can I just look at my bank statement and say in September, I put in 50,000 and like the deductions from expenses were 22,000. And so my gross profit is whatever that comes up to be, what, 28?
I suggest you don't wait.
Uh-huh.
You don't wait for those numbers to come up. Hopefully you've got somebody that can either help you with that bookkeeping, or you're running them through rather than just running them through a checking account, that you're actually using the most simplistic version of QuickBooks, because it's really inexpensive, but it gives you a lot of insight and a lot of reporting horsepower that you can tap into and find out, geez, what happened this month? What did I spend money on? What went out the door and what came in the door? And how do those measure up? And what's the net effect of all of that? What's the net impact to me on the bottom line of all of that?
And so what does that mean, the net effect? So if I look at it was, I earned 50 and then I spent 28 or whatever I said, and then that means, or 22, and that means that there was 28. So what do I learn from that information?
What you learn is how much farther ahead you are this month than maybe last year, right? Or maybe the prior month. So if your business is going like this, maybe a really good comparison is versus the prior month. So if you've got, 3 more clients this month than you had last month, are you spending the same amount of money last month as you did last month to deliver those sales, right? Deliver that revenue. Or did you have to increase the team that you have to be able to service that? So some of that is, let's call it leverage. Some of it's leverage because you can grow sales with the same team. That's more profit. If you're growing sales, but you have to add much more before those sales hit, that's an investment. And you got to keep your eye on that very closely, because too many months of that shrinks your margin and it shrinks your bank account. So we can't have that unless there's going to be a big payoff, and for a fact, right, that there's going to be a payoff 2 months down the road, then you can kind of hold on to that. But if it's not, and it just keeps kind of spiraling down, then that's no bueno.
Got it. So I love the idea of what I'm learning from you is we can compare. A lot of this is about comparison to see how we're doing versus last year, how we're doing versus the previous month, and kind of like what those trends are, and that there's information for us in those trends. So I really, I've heard you talk about kind of like the story behind the numbers, but now I'm really seeing what the story is. The story is, are we learning and doing better? Are we getting more profitable? Can we get more sales without adding more expenses and things like that? So that's super helpful.
Yeah, great.
When I have consultants on, one of the things I'm wanting is for those listening to hear what you do, so they might bring you into their clients if there's a need for something like this, which the more I hear about it, every time I hear about it, I think this is amazing information. The second thing is, I think it's important for people to hear kind of like, your expertise is relevant to us, even though you're working with larger clients. So I love what you've been teaching us. And then the third thing is like, tell us about you as a consulting business. So I'm really interested. You talked about getting referrals, getting clients through referrals. So how else do your clients come to you?
Yeah, so our clients come to us, the number one way is through referrals. The second way is, oh gosh, marketing. Some of it's because they see me. So one thing, it's kind of a funny story. the marketing is, I've had quite a journey. So I'll just share with you and your listeners a little bit of my specific marketing journey. So as a CFO, it's kind of a foreign territory for anybody in, financial management function to go out there and do marketing and do it well. And I don't know, we were introduced way back when. It's been about at least 6 years ago that we've been working together in various levels. And so that marketing journey began because marketing is not my joy and genius zone at all. I'll be the first to admit that. So and I'm a lot more receptive to it now than I used to be, and you can vouch for that.
Yes.
So it's been that 6-year journey with you, but the last 2 years, well, COVID kind of was a turning point for me.
Mhm.
And it was an inspirational time for me because I felt like there was a lot of confusion out there and a lot of void and a lot of, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do. And maybe some bad decision making when COVID hit of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And people just literally freaking out.
Yeah.
So about their finances and about their company and what am I going to do? How am I going to, I have nobody to help me with this. And so I know you've been after me for at least 2 years to do
Yeah.
some video.
Yeah.
And all by myself with the help of the universe telling me, Patty, they need to hear you. They need to hear from you. The universe is telling me that people need to hear from a calming voice about their finances, about their business finances, and it's going to be okay. So I started doing videos just on my iPhone
Yes.
and posting them on LinkedIn, and uh, and I was also being asked at the time, because people were seeing those, to come into panel discussions and things like that, because we're all in shutdown.
Yeah.
We're all looking at our tubes, right? We're all looking at our screens and looking for more information. We're starved for what should we do? What should we do next? What can we do? Right? What's within our power to be able to do for our business
Yeah.
and for our people, right? And for our communities, right? So that we're as strong as we can be on the other side of this.
Yeah.
So COVID kind of changed everything for me in that regard, and I responded. So what I would tell other people is that there's kind of 3 guiding tenets for me right now as it relates to my marketing and how things come to me. Is, first of all, lean into it. Right? It may not be comfortable for you, and surely was not comfortable for me, but lean into it and trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
Samantha has a process. And so I trusted that process. It took me a while to just, do it. But once you do it, it works.
Mm.
It's awesome. And then the third thing is, be yourself, be authentic, right? You need to be you. Nobody else can be you. You be you. And people will, the right people will show up.
Your people did show up.
Your people will show up. Exactly.
Well, one thing that you really have modeled, Patty, is overcoming that kind of reluctance to doing video. And I do love that you got such resonance from your peeps of that with that information. And, there's nothing like getting a message, getting up and like looking at one of your messengers and somebody saying, hey, I saw this video, call me. I think that's a really, it's a real reaffirmation about what we should be doing. So Patty, can you share like how things were in your business when we met and what things are like now? And what would you say are kind of the things that have changed or evolved the most?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, team has really been important to me. When we first started working together, it was just me.
Yeah.
It was just me. It was, trying to stay in my joy and genius zone, which was kind of rough because I didn't have any help. So I was overwhelmed with all of the things that I was trying to do and deliver to my clients, as well as doing, running the business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Doing it in the business and working on the business. So it was not allowing me to really shine.
Yeah.
And so you really helped me to see that I was capable of pulling together a team to help with the delivery side of it, so that I can my joy and genius can shine through even more so. So it seems counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
it really does work.
Yeah.
So lean into that.
Well, and you
um,
just come back from a week away where you said your team was just like spectacular.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So yeah, during that week away, and we prepare for that, but we have systems in place. That's
Yes.
another big one, right? So I'll talk
Hmm.
about that in a minute.
Hmm.
But during that time away, I didn't get any emails from clients. I didn't get any emails from my team.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say they don't like me
Or don't need you.
or don't need me, right?
Yeah.
But what it does say is we have the systems,
Hmm.
I have great team members, and honestly, thanks to you, I have great clients. My clients are awesome. And I know, we had unfortunately we had a family a death in the family last year. And during that time, it was a hurry up and oh my gosh, I gotta go. And my clients were like, "Oh my gosh, Patty, don't worry about it. This can wait. We know we know you got to take care. Please go take care of that. And your teams, they've got everything covered, and we're good. We're good." And my team was
Great.
like, "Patty, you go do what you need to do. We got this.
Great.
What more can you ask for,
Awesome.
right?"
Yes, yes. Well, especially since the contrast is like anybody who remembers having needy clients
Oh,
or,
mhm.
everybody's been there with the wrong kind of
Everybody's
client.
been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else have you?
And systems.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's talk about systems. So I did mention it, but having those systems in place for client delivery,
Yep.
for onboarding a client, for whatever systems you have, whatever workflows in your business that you have, that you repeat, that you repeat, that you repeat,
Yes.
you do over and
Right.
over and over.
Yeah.
We think we do something special for every single client. We might tweak things, but essentially, a lot of that stuff's the same. So let's systematize it. Let's get systems in place that support not only our people, but our clients and ourselves, because otherwise we're running around crazy trying to, how did I do that? How did I do that last time? What did I do? No, copy paste. Here's the template, copy paste, start
Yeah.
over, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome. I highly recommend it. So, and that's the other thing is we help people grow. We help people scale and grow. That's one of the huge foundations that you need to have in your business to allow yourself on that kind of trajectory. To scale and grow, you got to have the systems to back it up.
Awesome. And it makes you more profitable because you're not reinventing the wheel and all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
coming up with some finance
Absolutely.
tips here.
Yes. Awesome. You learned something
Great.
from me.
I learn a lot from you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I'm totally like always taking Patty knowledge and
Awesome.
incorporating it. Yes. What about packages? Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Um, Packages. As far as we deliver outcomes. So one thing, we worked with early on is to get away from hourly.
Yeah.
I don't bill hourly. I
Were
don't
you
do
really doing
any.
hourly in the beginning?
I was doing hourly at the beginning.
Wow.
Right now, we totally transitioned away. We are a fixed fee for outcomes. We're outcomes based at TurboExecs. So we will provide a scope of work for you for a fixed monthly fee. So whether you need, simple, straightforward bookkeeping or CFO services or everything in between, or you want to outsource your entire back office to us, we got you covered. There's nothing better than being able to make data-driven decisions to help you grow your business with complete confidence, right?
Absolutely.
You're not looking
Absolutely.
at junk.
Yeah. So in the beginning, you were doing the hourly, and what would you say your average client or project size was?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's probably around, I don't know, maybe 2,500 to 3,000,
Mm-hmm.
3,500, 25, 3,500. Yeah.
And
Now we're,
now your engagements tend to be.
oh my gosh. Yeah, we're in starting at the 3,000 a month and all the way up to right now. We had a scope increase for a client. We have a client at $11,000 a month, and we have a client at $10,000 a month. And
Great.
they're happy to expand the scope to us. They couldn't be happier. We've actually had clients that have seen what we bring and wanted an immediate scope expansion, and have they've made adjustments to their internal staffing to accommodate us.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, wow is
You
right.
bring the value.
We do.
That's the deal. Awesome. I mean, it's, your transformation has been so extraordinary. And my favorite thing is that because you have the systems and the team, you're in a position of, potentially fairly unlimited growth. Like you can take on more and more and more clients because you have the capacity to serve them. Whereas so many of my clients, they'll come to me and they're like, they're stuck. They're like, I really want to grow, but I don't have anywhere to put it. And you've really put in place all of the things that we need to have, team, tools, leverage, strategic partnerships, all of those signature systems, all of those things that allow you to expand your business. So it's just been super, super amazing. And, I have to say also, so much of growth is really expanding a mindset and like who you are as a person. And I've really just seen such an amazing evolution during the time I've known you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's a huge one for me because my most recent team member addition was somebody to replace me. Not really replace, but added bandwidth for me. So I can, I have a staff CFO now. Who knew, right? That's that ego death that has to happen, right? We talked about that a little earlier, but that was my big hurdle. That was my last big hurdle, and my mindset had to change around that, because in order to continue to provide the level of services and to people, and to take on more clients and bigger projects, that was the only way that was going to happen. Is I had to get out of my own way and get over it. So I'm not too proud to say that, it did take a little bit of time, and we're all human, but yeah, I'm over it.
You're over it, and you're like, you're Patty 3.0. That's like the version of you who held that is like 2 versions ago. Okay, so I know you have something really amazing that I want you to share with us. And the reason, a little background on the origin of this was, I was working with a client who said, and I was talking to her about the path to 2 million, which a lot of my clients want to be on. And she said, well, here's the deal is that, like, I don't know if I need 2 million. I want to bring home, she said, $500,000 a year. So how much do I need to make to bring home 500,000? And I was like, good question. And I know just who can answer it. So tell me what you've created. And if somebody says, I don't need 500, I want, 200. And somebody says, I want 750,000. Like, you've created something that we can plug in our number, our desired take home salary or draw. So what do you have and where can we go take it?
Love it. Yeah, when you brought that to me, I'm like, well, that's easy. So I've put together a tool for your folks and your listeners to use to basically solve for that. So let's get an answer to that question. And it's a tool that's available at turboexecs.com/salary-tool.
Awesome.
So what it is, it's a great little Excel sheet, a great little Excel tool that you have to input a few numbers that you'll know from your business. and input your desired salary. What do you want to make out of the business? And then it'll solve for what's the level of sales, what's the level of revenue that you have to bring in order to support that. And
Perfect.
sometimes it's just your big goal, right? This is my big goal. So what does that look like? And that's going to help you to frame that up for yourself and have that goal for next year.
So Patty, I just want to thank you so much for, first of all, for simplifying this, for holding this, the possibility that we could all understand this, we could make enough money to support our families and contribute to our communities, and for modeling for us the kind of evolution that a business owner makes when they go from kind of like this hourly, like this is how I thought I should do it, to really being expansive and transforming their clients with outcomes. So I just want to thank you so much for everything you've shared with us today. And how about LinkedIn? Is that a good place to connect with you?
LinkedIn is a perfect place to connect with me. So just look me up, Patty Lawrence, and it's with a Y, Patty.
PTY Lawrence.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again so much, Patty. I know with all that you've shared today that our audience will definitely be emphasizing the profitable part of being profitable, joyful consultants. Thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to get video updates. Thanks.